And here are the critical tables for the various elemental attack spells. Impact 2, electricity, cold, and heat. These results are exceptionally fun, generally. Exceptionally fun. Okay, because I know we're taking a lot of time here, and I knew it would. I was going to show you guys a situation with miniatures, but I'm not going to do that just for the sake of time. One thing I do like about MERP and Rollmaster is that they don't really work with an initiative system. It doesn't happen. You don't roll for initiative in MERP or Rollmaster. Now there are some add-on secondary rules to Rollmaster that address this and try to put an initiative system into it. I say that's just a waste of time. This is how, and I'm going to put this in air quotes again, generally speaking, the combat round is conducted, as if I was a conductor. The first thing that happens, okay, first thing is spells, second is missile or thrown, third is movement, fourth is melee, and here they say static maneuver, but generally, and static maneuvers are those fiddly kind of maneuvers that take a lot of time. So if you're trying to pick a lock or do something that takes a lot of dexterity and concentration, that's what they call a static maneuver. MERP puts the static maneuver here at the end. Rollmaster actually puts it in with the moving maneuver, and I believe that's where it should be. So MERP, you kind of, this doesn't make as much sense as putting it in with the maneuver. So what this means is that a nice thing about spellcasters is once they have their spell ready, it goes off at the beginning of the round. It happens first. And considering that casting spells is supposedly instantaneous when it's time for them to be cast, a spellcaster can then take some movement if they want during the period when everybody starts resolving their movement. That's what this means. May take 10 feet movement later or 20 feet movement later. Actually, this is 1 hex or 2 hexagons. For those folks who are throwing daggers or shooting bows and stuff, that stuff happens next. So basically what MERP and Rollmaster are saying is that it takes a lot less time to say a magic spell like blah, like that's, I always, in my mind, that's what is happening when a spellcaster casts a spell. They say blah, the word blah, and then things just happen. In a situation where everybody's ready to do something, it takes a lot less time to say a word than it does to throw a knife or to shoot a bow or to run up to somebody and attack them with a melee weapon. And so that's how MERP and Rollmaster are basically structured. So spells go first, then it's your missile, and then it's your movement. Generally, if two combatants are not next to each other to engage in melee combat, of course, it's the movement that gets them to that point, and then the melee attacks. So then all the hitting and banging goes on from there. How attacks and such, well, according to the rules, all spells happen at the same time instantaneously. And of course, if someone's trying to disrupt a spell, there'd be a movement and maneuver table roll to try to jeopardize that. Supposedly all missile attacks happen simultaneously too, unless of course somebody's trying to disrupt that. Where things don't happen simultaneously according to the rules are the melee attacks. And how melee attacks are handled is that the character with the highest movement and maneuver bonus attacks first. So it's handy to have a high movement and maneuver bonus so that your attack can happen before your enemy's attack. Now I'm going to actually, this is not in the rules, but I'm going to be putting it into the rules, is that those people who are attacking with a ranged, with the whip, for example, okay, since the whip can reach out there 15 feet, if someone's trying to engage the person with the whip, unless that person does a successful feint, the character with the whip, since that character has the longest reach, that attack is going to happen before anybody else. And the same thing with pole arms or weapons that have a reach of more than 5 feet will get to attack first, unless whoever that person is attacking makes a successful feint type maneuver. But regardless of all that, taken at face value, that is face value as the rules are concerned, the combatant that has the highest movement and maneuver bonus gets to attack first, and then it goes down from there to whoever has the second highest, and so on and so forth. Those combatants who have the same movement and maneuver bonus, those guys supposedly they attack simultaneously whoever they're attacking, and then down and down until the last combatant makes his or her attack. So what ends up happening is, if someone gets critically injured before his or her attack happens, then that attack does not happen. Or if someone gets stunned or knocked down or knocked out, then of course, before he or she can actually make their attack, then they don't attack. And so that's the bonus, if you will. That's the upside of being able to attack sooner rather than later during the melee portion of combat. Now, all this looks nice. The problem is it really starts to get a little janky when when there are many attempts to either stop someone from attacking or getting away from someone else's attack. Then attacking can actually happen sooner in the round than at its normal point near the end of the round. So that gets interesting now that I understand it a lot more than when I did when I was a kid. Oh yeah, you can cancel action or you can have an opportunity action, and that's where opportunity actions are about the only way that you can stop someone from casting a spell right away, or stop someone from shooting a bow or throwing a weapon or whatever, is if you set up for an opportunity action and then stop them right before they can do that. This may or may not need a movement and maneuver table roll to see if, depending upon the situation, that may or may not need a movement and maneuver table roll to see if it's successful or not. Static maneuvers. So again, MERP and Rollmaster are supposed to be on a percentile. You would think that 100% means you succeed, and anything less than that means that you don't succeed. Well, the static maneuver table is another spot where that is not true. As you can see right here, and I'll scroll down, yeah, there is a possibility for super duper success, or they call it absolute success. That is, if your roll with all your modifications are 176 and higher. Success starts at 111%. Oh, these guys, I tell you, it definitely makes it interesting. For lower level characters, pulling off static maneuvers is hard. It's it's hard to get up to 111% for a low level character. It just is. And so static maneuvers. So here, this category is disarming traps and picking locks. I'm going to scroll down here. So we have blunders. If you really blow it, it's bad. Absolute failure, standard failure, up to 75%. Partial success. So at least here, it might not be a clearly defined success. You can have partial and near successes at least with a static maneuver table, partial and near successes. But if you want a real clear defined success, you're going to want to have a result that is 111 or over. So that was locks and stuff. We may come back to this table. It's useful. Actually, it's useful in one specific way. I'll tell you that right after we finish the static maneuver table. General, okay, includes any static action. This could be, golly, I can't think of any general static action right offhand. There are some. Well, that could be like trying to determine the quality of a certain metal. So doing like a metallurgy or something kind of role or action. Interaction and influence, reading runes and using items. Perception, here's the big one. In MERP and Rolemaster, perception and the perception bonus are a big deal, because you can try to do a perception for anything. I mean, of course, you've got traps and locks and stuff, but you can do a perception to see if someone's lying, perception to see if you find a certain item at a store that you're looking for. Perception just happens a lot. With a game master present, it happens a lot. In the game masterless role-playing system, it won't be happening quite as often, but it will be happening as well. I'm going to quick go back to the animal table here. For one specific reason, remember I keep mentioning that the MERP and Rolemaster system, the criticals are savage. And if you can get a second critical to happen, a secondary critical to happen beyond your first, then that's always a good thing. With weapons, it's 2 levels lower. But for animals, guess what? It's only 1 level lower. So your secondary crit, I mean, just savage, is 1 step less severe and is indicated, okay, so E's become D's, okay? So if you thought it was bad, I mean, if being able to deal damage as a character with your weapon, well, if you're up against an animal and they're doing some damage, their criticals are even worse against you. I mean, just MERP makes battle a dangerous business. Far more than, I mean, with the criticals specifically, far more than any system that I know of. When you get into battle, you better be ready to either kill or be killed, because the chance for it to get savage is very high indeed. Fumbles, and this is the last table. The last table for the combat screen, the MERP combat screen. These can get kind of funny. It was really kind of scary. Spell failure. For very low level wizards, you can actually die from spell failure fairly easy, because you're just a little bit tougher than a 6 street urchin as a as a level 1 magician or mage. Movement and maneuver table, fumble table that is, hand arms, missile weapons. The modifications are what kind of weapon you're fumbling. Again, in both classes here. This is the I can go into this, I'm not going to right now. I is well, I can a little bit. I is information. Golly, U is utility. I forgot what P is supposed to be. F is force spells, and E is, I don't remember either. Could be energy, I'm not sure. Modifications here, routine versus absurd. I'm surprised that absurd is only plus 20 here. And that is the MERP. Holy cow. And that's the MERP combat screen. I wanted to go through, because, yeah, combat, miniature combat, kind of. Leveling up, no. Spells, yes. There's a lot about spells. The character sheet, I could, but I know I've already spent a lot of time here. I think what I may have to do, yeah, is I'll do the character sheet as a separate, as another video. And quite possibly spells a bit more too. I know that's a big subject for Rolemaster and MERP. Okay, so I'm going to do a character sheet on a separate. I do want to cover some of these house rules real quick, since today is Sunday. On this Entwife campaign, the characters that are going on, we're not going to have anybody with an evil character. So only good guys here, yeah, within reason. But that should be pretty easy, really. Generally, for Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, those storylines and the realm of Middle Earth itself, generally that's pretty clear cut. Guys will play guy characters, gals will play gal characters, no exceptions. For hit points, leveling up for hit points, generally it's 1d10 for how many hit points how many hit points you add on to increase your hit points. Here, I've made the rule that you get to roll 2d10 and pick whichever, or choose the higher roll. Favorite number, so this is a D100 system. Early on when I started playing, I found that I was always rolling a certain number, and I'll tell you that number later. And I just would keep rolling it. At just odd times, it just keep popping up, so we made the rule that, okay, you pick a number, one number between 1 and 100, and every time you roll it, something special happens. I will consult the bones. Okay, so for those people who are familiar with the movie Willow, at the very beginning, that old magician fellow says, I will consult the bones. So every fantasy game day, so every day in the life of the character during the campaign, he or she will get to re-roll one roll. So if something goes terribly bad, every day, the player will get to consult the bones and re-roll one bad roll. Oh, and then the 10-second prayer. You might think, well, MERP man, that's a little odd. You're introducing prayer into this Entwife campaign. Well, first of all, it's not that outlandish, only because J.R.R. Tolkien was a good Christian man himself, and he had a good team of folks, Christian men, that he was around. But second, and more importantly, the character that I'm bringing on this campaign has every possibility to be or become exceptionally powerful. And I I don't want my mindset to become that he's the judge, jury, and executioner of everybody. That he, in fact, will start acting more like God than God himself. And so to remind me, mainly the 10-second prayer at the beginning um, of the End Wife campaign, once we get started, that's going to be to remind me that I am not God in the real world, and my character is not God in the fantasy world. And that's as it should be. So for those people where, and the prayer isn't going to be tacky. It's not going to be a tacky prayer, but it's going to be a prayer to remind me of who's God. For people who get a little squeamish about that, you can just fast forward. It's only 10 seconds. So it's not going to be that painful. Anyway, and all this fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to be closing up shop here in just a moment. But to recap, all of those MERP rules that I just went through, I'm going to do the character sheet in a separate video, and I think I'm going to, because leveling up and the character sheet go together. And I'm also going to cover spells a little bit more. Well, yeah, and I'll have to, because learning spells goes along with the character sheet, so that works just fine. And then the next big section of the Entwife campaign, that's going to be a big deal. And of course, the Game Masterless role-playing system is going to be even bigger. Then after that, I'm going to show you a test drive of how that all works and what it looks like as I take my character one step closer to the Entwife campaign himself. And yeah, and then get the group together and get it going. So for now, anyway, that is going to be it. There's a lot going on, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I am looking forward to it. I hope that you found it, well, as much entertaining as it can be. It is interesting, at least the MERP rules. The Endwife campaign is going to be very interesting, like I say. It's going to take a lot for me to go through too. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you later. Take care, and until the next time, God bless. Bye-bye.